Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Laura the Driving Coach. So today I'm actually going to do my part 2 video of automatic failures on your New York State road test. Okay, I did do that video a while ago. It was about 8 months ago. What can I tell you? It was a really busy summer. I had a lot of students to teach, so I didn't get into that video. I also had to watch the other video to see what I missed in that video. So there were quite a few things that I missed, and that I'm basically saving for this video, so we're going to start going over them now. I actually wrote them down, so I have a nice little guide here. Alright, so let's get started. By the way, if you do want to watch the first video, if you haven't already watched it, I'm going to put a little card at the top so you can watch that video as well. Okay, so let's get started. First we're going to talk about lane changes. There are some parts of New York that make you do a lane change on the road test, where you would go onto a street with 2 lanes going in the same direction. Okay, they will have you do a lane change, but this is how they do it. Basically, well, let's talk about the lane change in general, right? How do you do a lane change? Okay, you always want to signal when you're doing a lane change. You want to look in your mirrors, you want to check your blind spot as well, and then move smoothly into the lane if you're clear. Okay, so where you could fail for the lane change is not checking or just pulling in front of somebody. If there is traffic there and they're getting close to you and you just pull into that lane change, you could fail for that. Okay, that could be an automatic failure because you just cut somebody off into that lane change. Okay, now let's talk about how they do the lane change on a road test. A lot of ones in Long Island, they will actually have you make a right turn onto a 2-way street, and you want to turn into the correct lane, which would be the right lane. Okay, then they'll tell you to make a left up ahead. They'll tell you, okay, in the second street, make a left. Now you have to remember that you're in the right lane at this point, right? So if you just try to go and make that lane, if you go and try to make that turn without changing lanes first, you're going to fail automatically. Because a lot of people think, oh, he's going to tell me to do the lane change first. He's going to tell me exactly what to do, right? But you got to know, if you're in the right lane, you got a left lane next to you, you can't just go and make that lane change and cut off that lane. You have to first do your lane change. Sorry, I meant to say, you don't want to just go and make that turn and cut off that lane. So you got to remember that you got to do that lane change first. So you got to move over first, then you could correctly make your left turn, right? So that's a little trick right there that they won't exactly tell you to do that, okay? Another thing is when you're making a turn, if you're turning onto a 2-lane street that's going in the same direction, you have to follow the correct lane. So if they tell you to make a right turn and there's 2 lanes to go into, you have to go to the closest lane that's going straight, okay? If you're making a left turn onto a 2-lane street, you got to go into the left lane, the closest lane, and those are New York State laws, okay? This might not come into effect into another state, because I know there's a video from the DMV in California where it says you can basically pick whichever lane you want to go into as long as you're checking for traffic. And you would think that that's the case in New York because of how other people do it. Most people just kind of pick whatever the heck lane they want to go into. If they're going to make a left up ahead, they'll make a right turn right into the left lane. But they can get a ticket for that, and you do not want to follow what other people do, those kind of way of driving on your road test. You want to do it correctly for your road test. Alright, so I went over that. Another one would be going around a moving vehicle, like passing a moving vehicle. So if you're in traffic, like especially, you know, I teach a lot in the Astoria road test site, there's a lot of trucks there, and a lot of them will be double parked. Sometimes you'll think you'll be at a light behind the truck and you may think he's double parked and you might start going around him. Make sure he's actually double parked. Make sure there's not a light ahead. Make sure he's not stopped for another reason. Make sure you see those hazards on. If he's got his hazards on, he's stopped fully. Okay, he's telling you that he's double parked. You know, just make sure as you're coming out and you're creeping, make sure you can see that there's no traffic in front of him, that he's not just stopped for the traffic. Because I've had students make that mistake where they started to go around a car that was actually just waiting for traffic, okay? Also going around a moving car, even if he's going too slow, do not go around a moving car when he's going too slow. Okay, you got to stay behind him. Unless the inspector specifically tells you, hey, go around this guy. Maybe it's a construction vehicle or something, and he's like, I want you to go around this person. Okay, then you can do it because you got the permission from the inspector. Make sure you do all your checking, though, if you do that. All right. Another way to fail is not looking behind you when you're reversing. And the reason why I say you could, well, first of all, a lot of people try to just use their mirrors. Remember, we got to actually turn our head and look behind us for the road test, okay? They don't want you to just use your mirrors. You can use them a little bit, but they want to see you hey, looking behind you, I'm seeing my whole view, right? And I could put my, as long as I'm not turning the wheel at the same time, I could put one hand on the seat. Now I'm in the passenger seat right now, so you'd be doing this opposite. You'd be using your right hand to go around the seat. But you could do this, okay? You could even do something like this so you can see better. Because it is hard to see if you're just turning your head like this. You're only seeing a corner. You're not seeing the whole thing. So it's better to do this so you're actually seeing the whole back window. You know, a lot of my students, I tell them, like, when they're beginning, look behind you, you know, actually turn your head. They're not seeing anything. You just do this, you're not seeing anything. You're looking out the side window, right? You're not looking at that back window, so make sure you can see out that back window like that, okay? Let's see. Not using both hands when you're driving, right? Some people get into the habit of driving up here, one hand down here, something like this. Usually when you do it once, they may just remind you, hey, use two hands. But if you're repeatedly doing it all the time, you're just kind of just doing your own thing, or just like kind of palming the wheel like this, right? Where you're not actually using the wheel. You're not doing hand over hand, things like this. That could make you automatically fail. So they don't like to see the one hand. Remember, you're supposed to have two hands on the wheel, right? Where should you have your hands? 9 and 3 or 10 and 2. Okay, those are the two options. Doing a lot of hard stopping, like suddenly stopping really, really hard. Let's say you're driving, repeatedly doing it at stop signs, repeatedly doing it when you have to parallel park, like just a lot of repeated doing hard stops. That can actually make you fail. And a lot of people don't know that one, okay? Here's a big one. Stopping in traffic for no reason. So say you're coming down the street, okay, you don't have any stop signs, okay? You're being ultra cautious, or you see something further up ahead and you suddenly stop and there's no apparent reason for it. You're just driving down the street and you suddenly stop. Like you get scared, like you see something up ahead, you're thinking about it, or you're thinking, oh, I gotta stop because I'm coming down a street. You know, if you got, like, say you're coming down a street and you got streets on the right side and the left side of you, but they have stop signs, right? And the reason why you know they have stop signs is because you don't. So if you're just stopping at your intersection and looking, you don't have stop signs, they're going to fail you. They're going to be like, you can't just stop in traffic, because you're at a higher risk of having a rear-end collision if you do that. If you're just driving down the street, you got no stop signs, nothing's interfering with you, and you just suddenly slam on the brakes, you know, you could get killed that way, especially if you do that like on a really busy street, okay, like where the speed limit's really high. So they do not want to see that at all. I've had students fail for that, definitely. You can also fail for jerky driving, basically being very jerky with the brake and the gas, where we're constantly doing this, okay? They're going to tell you have no gas control, no brake control, especially if you're doing it on both of them. If you're doing it on the gas and the brake and you're constantly doing it, they're going to tell you, hey, you don't really know how to control the gas pedal, you don't know how to control the brake pedal. They want you to be nice and smooth when you're driving. You want to have the nice, comfortable experience. You don't want to have to worry about that inspector losing his lunch in your car, okay? If he's getting ready to like puke, you know, it's not a good thing, okay? Another one is following too closely. If you're driving down the street and you're right on somebody's bumper, or really not leaving them enough space, okay, it's dangerous driving, it's tailgating, they can automatically fail you for that, okay? Because if that person suddenly brakes in front of you, it's not good, right? We could have a rear-end collision. You're not going to be able to stop that car in time. So not tailgate people when driving. Tailgating is a term for following someone really closely, okay? Taking too long to make a turn. That could also be an automatic failure if you're really taking your turns really, really, really slow, because it's showing that you don't really know what you're doing. You don't have enough experience behind the wheel. You're too cautious. You're scared to make the turn. You're not experienced enough. So it's going to tell that inspector a lot about you by your turning. A lot of people don't think about the turning so much. They think about parallel parking, 3-point turns. That's what they're focused on. But the turns, you have to do those turns before you get up to those other maneuvers, right? First thing you're going to do after you pull out is do a turn, right? You're going to be doing a left turn, you're going to be doing a right turn, you're going to be going to stop signs. That's just as important as that parallel parking or that 3-point turn. So that's why you got to be really cautious with those. You want to be cautious with the turns, but not too cautious to where you're taking forever to make those turns, right? They want to see it nice and smooth. You know what you're doing, you're checking around you, you know you're safe. Make those turns nice and smooth, okay? Let's see. The opposite would be taking a turn too fast, right? Flying into a turn. especially a lot of times when you fly into a turn, you take it too fast, it's going to cause you to come out of your lane. It's going to cause you to make a wide turn, right? If you're flying through those turns, they're going to be like, wow, you're completely not cautious enough. Or it could be inexperienced too. Some of my inexperienced students, they'll get nervous and they'll take a turn way too fast. So because they want to show that, hey, I know what I'm doing, so I'm like, take the turn. You don't want to do that, okay? Taking a turn too fast, way too fast, can cause you to automatically fail. Could also cause you to have an accident. Well, if somebody's pulling out as you're making that turn and you just fly into it and you don't check, and you could have an accident right there. Let's talk about the left turn at the traffic light, because a lot of times on the road test they'll have you do this. Basically, is the correct way to do it is to, if you have a solid green light, you want to make a left at the traffic light. You move up into the intersection. If you are the first car, you about near the center. If you look at the road test scoring sheet, it says one of the marks that you could get off is, it says failing to move to the center, near center of intersection when waiting to make a left turn. So you got to move near the center of the intersection. If you're staying behind that white line and you're trying to make that left turn, you're never going to make it. First of all, you're not allowing the traffic to get around you from behind you. You're not getting your positioning ready for that turn, and then if the light changes, you can't make the turn because you're behind the white line, okay? So you must move up near the center, wait for any traffic, then make your turn. The next one is failing to make that left turn to go if the light turns red. If you're in the middle, near the middle of the intersection, you're already past the line, you pass the pedestrian lines, you're waiting to make that left turn, you must focus on that light as well. I always tell my students, you look at three things: the traffic light, the oncoming traffic, and the pedestrians where you're crossing, to make sure it's clear from pedestrians, from cars, from explosions, or from anything that could be happening there, right? So if you're waiting there and the light turns red, remember the oncoming traffic is going to get the red light too. Just make sure no one's blowing the light, and you'll see that from their speed. If they're starting to pick up their speed when that light turns yellow, you know they're going to take it, right? Don't just turn, okay? Once that light's red, you see that they're starting to slow down. There's no danger of somebody blowing the light. Finish your turn. That's the correct way to do it, okay? Also, not following somebody. Let's say if somebody is before you and they're going up to make the left turn at the traffic light, do not follow somebody into that intersection, especially when there's no room for you. I had a student recently who did follow the car into the intersection, and he ended up sitting on the pedestrian lines. Now what happened was the light turned red. The car in front of him went, he couldn't go. He got stuck because he was on the pedestrian lines. The right and left traffic wasn't going to consider that he was just finishing his turn. So he got stuck there. And then the inspector asked him, she's like, do you know what you should have done here? And he got a little nervous with it, and he ended up failing for that, okay? Because he got stuck on the pedestrian lines. He was blocking the crosswalk. The other car had already gone. He had to wait there at the light. He had to wait for the next one, and then he had to move up. She automatically failed him for that, okay? Let's see. Another thing you could possibly fail for is when you're making like a left turn. Usually this happens on left turns when you're crossing the yellow line. Okay, make sure you're turning completely into your lane and not crossing over that line, not making it too sharp, especially if you're turning onto small streets, right? A lot of road tests are given in areas where the streets are not that wide, and you got these two-way streets, right? So you got to make sure you're turning correctly into your lane. You're not driving in the center of the road. You're not driving on the wrong side of the road. That happens a lot. Let's see. Another one will be driving in the bike lane. Usually this happens on turns, either when somebody's going into the turn and they're going into the lane and there's a bike lane right there, they'll turn right into the bike lane. They'll keep driving in the bike lane. Or when you're going to make a turn down a regular street, crossing the bike lane before you get into the turn. So you do not want to drive in those bike lanes. Remember, those bike lanes are there for a reason, okay? Another one could be not checking for bikers, right? Especially if you are taking your road test within the 5 boroughs. We have a lot of bikers. Even if there's no marked bike lane, you want to check your right mirror and your blind spot a little bit when you're going to make a turn, especially a right turn, right? Always make sure there's no bikers. You should always check on your left too if you're making a left turn, right? Quick check to make sure no car decided to go around you and there's no biker too. Especially, I mean, usually they don't give road tests on one-way streets, but on a one-way street, a biker can ride on either side of the road. So if you're making a left, you'd also want to check for a biker because he might be going straight. He might be on your left side, all right? And actually that's all I wrote here. So those are a few more examples of ways that you could fail your road test. Guys, if you haven't subscribed yet to my channel or you're a new time watcher, please hit that subscribe button and put on the notifications. I do upload videos every week. I'm trying to do a couple a week because I want to get a lot of specifics out of the way. And I love if you tell me what you want to see in future videos. Do you want to see specific road test areas? The only road test areas I really couldn't tell you is, really I just know Long Island. I taught for in a long time, so I know a lot about the specific road tests in Long Island, especially Nassau County. And Queens, I know a lot of the road test areas in Queens. I've been to Astoria, I've been to quite a few of them. I think there's only one in Queens I haven't been through. Really can't tell you much about Bronx or Brooklyn or upstate because I haven't visited those road test areas. But really, they're generally the same. The road tests are generally the same through New York State. There may be little differences, but I could definitely help you out more with Long Island and Queens with those road test sites. So if you'd like to know a specific road test site and I'd like to give me to get some tips, then let me know. Also, if you passed your road test, if my videos helped you out, I love if you left me a comment. I love reading comments about people who pass their road test, especially if my videos helped you out. I mean, I just got one last night. I think it was last night or this morning, and I actually I think it was last night, and I responded to him, and it was, you know, it's nice to see that. That's why, like, that last video I put up was all my students within the past 6 months passing their road test. It's really, truthfully, that video was just for me because I like to see that. You know, I usually take a picture of my student. If I go with them, I'll take a picture of them with their little receipt, you know, just for my collection, you know, just see, hey, you know, watch my students pass for nostalgia, right? So like I said, give me a subscribe. Give me a subscribe, give me a like if you could, comment, and I will see you guys later in the future videos. By the way, sorry about that phone call. I'm going to call my office back. That was my office. If you got a lot of value out of this video and you would like to, gotta get my train of thought after that happened. If you'd like to give me, I do have a PayPal donation set up. I am actually saving up for a better camera. So if you want to help me get a better camera, you could also donate to my PayPal. I will have the description and a link. I do currently teach at Ferrari Driving School. If you want a lesson, you could call my office. I'm going to put the phone number in my description.